Hello, lovely students. This is Mrs. Geisy, and today we are going to be talking about writing your introduction. Now, I have two separate other videos that are about thesis statements, so we're not going to talk about that in this video. You're going to want to go to those videos for thesis statement. However, we're going to be talking about instead the different parts of an introduction and what leads up to the thesis statement. Now, a paper is sometimes visually represented like this. You've got your introduction, then your body paragraphs, and then your conclusion. I guess I should probably have made that smaller, but that's okay. It'll work. And in order for best clarity, you have your thesis statement that tells your reader what your point of your whole paper is, what you're trying to prove. And then in your body paragraphs, you're going to have, at the beginning of each paragraph, you're going to have a claim that tells them what that body paragraph is going to prove. Then, later in your paper, at the beginning of your conclusion, you're going to restate your thesis. And this helps your reader understand your argument better. It helps you be more clear and organized. And it signals to your reader what the organization of your paper is. That way you're explaining most clearly and you're not going to confuse your reader. Sometimes there's a joke that people say in nerdy English land that first in your introduction you're going to tell them what you're about to tell them. Then in your body paragraphs, you tell them. And then in your conclusion, you tell them what you just told them. And that's very true about about 5-paragraph essay structure. But you can't just start right out with your thesis. You got to kind of ease into it. And these triangles sort of show that. You got up here in your introduction, you want to start out more general to hook your reader, and then as you go forward you get more specific, and that's your specific thesis statement, which is the main idea of your paper. Now, because you want people to read your paper, the first thing that you are going to put in your paper is a hook. What that is a one sentence or a couple sentences at the very beginning of your paper that interests your reader, that's going to make them interested and excited in what you have to say. Because nobody wants to read a boring paper, even a college professor or a teacher. You know, they have a lot of papers to read. You want to give them a good first impression right away so that they are more open to your ideas and they're interested in your paper. I'm going to be using this handout that I give my students in order to explain what I'm talking about. So again, a hook is an interesting first line that makes your reader want to know more. And there are 4 suggestions I have for good hooks. First of all, an intriguing fact or a surprising statistic. This is often really good for research papers. If you're finding a lot of interesting facts anyway, if you find a fact that is related to your argument but that maybe you didn't use in your body paragraphs, this could be a good opportunity to interest your reader. So for example, China has more students classified as gifted than the United States has total students. That makes me go, what? Really? I'm interested. I want you to tell me some more about that. So that's what makes it effective as a hook. Again, be careful. You want a fact that is interesting. It makes your reader want to read more. Sometimes facts can be boring, so make sure it's a really interesting fact that's going to encourage them to read. Secondly, you could use a provocative quotation. This is especially effective when you're doing a paper that's based on a book or a poem or a short story. If you use a quote from that story, That could interest the reader as long as it makes sense out of context. Some quotes, if you just say them randomly, people have no idea what you're talking about. It has to be interesting and make sense out of context. So, for example, commenting on whether the death penalty is a deterrent to crime, Jeff Jacoby states, "Sure enough, as executions has become more numerous, murder has declined." So an interesting quote could really intrigue the reader. Number 3, a thought-provoking question. Careful. It is very easy to write a super lame question. Be careful. I would say 95% of all the questions that people try to put as their hooks that I've read are terrible. Because if the question is awkward or if the question is not interesting, it actually works against you. Here's a good one. Did you know that it costs states more to sentence a person to death than it does to imprison them for their entire life? What? If that's true, that's really surprising, and that's why it's interesting. It makes people interested in how you're going to prove this question. A boring question might be something like, have you ever wondered what it would be like to be a witch? Talking about the Crucible. No, I have not wondered that, and it's really weird of you to ask that. So yeah, that is not an effective question. So really think about it if you're using a question. Try and come up with something that's very interesting, otherwise it could work against you. And then fourth suggestion, specific details or a brief story. So remember, if you're doing specific details, it should be descriptive and interesting. Example, imagine a world where there's no word for freedom. A world where even a discontented look could send you to jail for treason against the government. This is the world of Orwell's seminal novel, 1984. Yes, I wrote that and I'm awesome. So it's kind of like what they try and get you to, what they have in movie trailers where they're trying to interest you with some interesting description. In a world where, whatever. It's just, they're trying to make you interested by describing what's going on in the movie. And in this case, I'm trying to describe what's going on in the book in an interesting way that makes you interested in learning more about the book. So that could work. Here's some next I want to talk about examples of really bad hooks that you do not want to do because they are lame. Example, the book report introduction. For the love of all that is holy, do not say something like, at the very beginning of your paper, I am going to argue against the death penalty. There is nothing interesting in that statement. I am bored already. Don't bore me with your paper, please. Or, my paper is about. This is the worst type of hook. No one wants to read this paper. Literally, no one. So you want to interest your teacher. You don't want to bore them. So help them out. Make them interested. It makes them want to give you better grades. Other bad hook, the dictionary definition. Possibly this might have worked 50 years ago, but it is so cliche right now. It does not work anymore. It's so boring. Because, first of all, there's nothing interesting about the dictionary. Nobody sits down and reads it for fun. Okay, maybe like 2 people in the history of the world, but no. Nobody wants to hear a definition, especially if something obvious that everybody knows what the definition is. It's lame. So, for example, a bully is someone who is habitually cruel to smaller or weaker people. Boring. I'm already asleep and I haven't even gotten through the first sentence of your paper. It's terrible. Help me out. Make it interesting. Also, we already talked about boring questions. That really works against you. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to attend school in a uniform? Not really. It just doesn't work. And then fourthly, the way too broad introduction. For example, since the dawn of man, people have been concerned about bullying. Really? That long since the dawn of man? It's really working against you. It's not interesting. It makes claims that could not possibly prove later in the paper, it's just not effective. Again, I think one of these 4 up here would be way more effective. So please try those out instead. I'm sure there's other tactics too, but those are the ones I suggest. Now, after you have written the hook of your paper, the next thing you want to do is you want to give general information about your topic, anything that somebody might not know about your topic before reading your paper that'll help them understand your argument. So if you have a dictionary definition you have to explain, that might be a good place to put it, but only if it's really necessary. If you are writing a paper about a book, you're going to want to put a summary of the book in this place. You're going to want to put the title of the book there, the author of the book, and then also, like, what's the main conflict and what's the main characters? I'm totally running out of space. Characters. What are the main characters of the story? That way, and I really would say no more than 3 to 5 sentence summary, because if you get any longer than 3 to 5 sentences of summary, first of all, your teacher probably has already read the book. I would hope so. So they don't need more than that of summary in order to understand your paper. But then also, it gets to be where your whole paper is summary, and that's not what you're trying to do. That's probably, it's very rare that a summary is your whole paper. You don't want that. You want to get to the thesis, which is proving your point. I hope this has helped you with what your paper's introduction should look like. If you have any questions, please contact me, and I'm going to be doing more videos to help you soon. Thank you.